Hello everyone, this is the first lesson recording for IM1, December 4th, 2020, which we're trying a new technology. It's called whiteboard.fi that I hope to use sometimes in the class. You found the link during class in your chat. Okay, so first thing, just as a warm up, just as an icebreaker, I would like you to log in to whiteboard.fi or the link that I put in the chat and sketch for me what present you wish for this holiday season. Okay, let me show some functionality for whiteboard.fi. Um, your board might look slightly different because this might be the teacher version, but you can see all the menu options at the top. All right, so the first one, this one just tells you that you can just draw on it like this. Okay, you can use your mouse, and this place first point of line. So if you're trying to draw a line, you place it, and that, oops. If you're trying to draw a line, this will be the first point, and then second point, you just drag with it. Okay. You can also paste a square or a circle if you want. If you want to write text, instead of writing using your cursor, typing is far easier. So say I want to type in, okay, so for my present, I would like, from my family, I would like to request an orchid plant for Christmas. Okay, so I might just type that in instead of trying to write it out. You can certainly do insert some pictures, and there are other functionalities that you can play around with. This is zooming in, and this is zooming back into the original. This is undo, that would be really helpful. This is just erase everything. Okay, so that's delete everything. I haven't figured out all the functionality. You can certainly change colors by clicking on this. Okay, it gives you many different color options. Say if I want to do it in this red, I can change that orchid plant writing into red doing that. Okay, so, and this allows you to change the font size as well as the line width, and the filling style, opacity, all the different things like that. This allows you to erase, and then does some background. This tool will be helpful, this square root sign with the X underneath. This is the math editor. Okay, so say if I want to put in, say if I wanted to put in an equation that looks like y is equal to 3x squared plus 5 or something like that. All right, so then I can use my keyboard. Y is equal to, so I just erase what was in the box, and then I can write y is equal to, say, 2x, and then for the exponent, I'm going to use the caret, which is on the shift key with number 6, 2x squared. And to get out of the exponent, I would type in the right arrow, and that will get you out of the exponent mode, and then plus 3. Okay, say if I wanted to type that in, or any other math equations, this gives you a lot of math functionality. Okay, so then it will give me that, and I get to move that. Say if I want to move that to the middle so that I can see better and I can move around with it, and I can make it bigger by moving my corners. Okay, so this way I can see your answers very clearly. The beauty of Whiteboard Fi is that I can see all your work all at the same time, including who's putting in what. And I can also share it with people, with the class when it is appropriate. So let's try this out and let's see how useful it could be. Okay, so what are we doing today? We are going to have a review day. So we are going to have the unit test on Tuesday. So we're going to do lots and lots of different reviews. Um, what's going to be on the Unit 3 test content? It's going to be on multiplying polynomial and scatter plot. You need to be very comfortable with the quiz 5 material and quiz 6 material. Okay, so make sure you go over your quiz questions and quiz answers so that you can figure out what mistakes you did so that you do not make the same mistake. Also, solving equations will be in there, linear equations, finding the slope and y-intercept with 2 points, and you need to review simplifying exponents with negative and zero exponents as well. All right, so let's start with a word problem that is similar to what we did last lesson. So there is a car moving, 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 moving. So the word problem is going to be related to where um, driving. Okay, and are we there yet? All right, so fuel tank at so fuel tank level in the beginning of the drive was 25 gallons, and the distance traveled, well, you haven't traveled anywhere, so it's at 0. So you've just filled up to the full, your fuel tank is full, and your car holds 25 gallons. And you're just starting, so you haven't traveled anywhere, so distance traveled is 0 miles. Then when you go up to 19 miles, oh, not 19. Okay, when you get to distance traveled is 175 miles. So after 175 miles, the fuel tank is measuring at 18 gallons. And it continues on. Okay, so that's the word problem. And you're going to answer in private chat. You're going to use the similar logic, or you can also use the finding the points, okay, two corner points, the x and y, to figure out how many gallons is needed to travel 1 mile of distance. So we are looking for a unit rate here again, right? So we're given that at start, we're given that 25 gallons in the tank and 0 miles traveled. And sometimes later, we are told that 18 gallons are in the tank and 175 miles have traveled. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and think about how many gallons is needed to travel 1 mile of distance. So we are figuring out gallons per mile unit rate here. Okay, I'm going to assume you've had a chance. So how many gallons are needed to travel 1 mile of distance? Well, at start, we're told that 25 gallons of fuel is in the tank and then 0 miles have traveled. And sometimes later, 18 gallons of fuel in the tank and 175 miles travel. So that means we are looking for gallons per mile unit rate. So we are looking for some number, some gallons of gas per unit of 1 mile per mile. Okay, how many gallons are required per mile? So this is the unit rate. So what is the gallons? Okay, so when you're talking about unit rate, that's the same thing as the slope, which is m, or slope. And gallons, remember, slope is always going to be delta y over delta x, or change in x or change in y over change in x. Let me make that look more like an x. So that means the gallons are going to be the y value, the mile is the x value. Okay, so x is the miles, the distance traveled, and y is the gallons. So here, distance traveled, so let me just write this: x is x comma y, where x is the distance travel, and y is the gallons. Okay, so let's put that into coordinate. Distance travel in the first data point is 0 miles. So this is going to be 0, comma, and gallons is 25. So you have 0, comma 25. For the second data point that we have, you have 18 gallons. 18 gallons is the Y value, so that's the second number. And the first number is 175. Okay, so X is the distance, Y is the gallons. Now, can you figure out the slope? Okay, the slope is going to be delta Y over delta X. So how did the top is going to be, how did the Y change? So Y changed, it went from 25 to 18. It went from 25 to 18. So we always use the final value, take away the initial value. Remember, we are finding the difference. We do not add. We're looking for how did it change. So we subtract. And we always use the final value, that's 18. Take away 25. That's what we started off with. Okay, it's okay. We're going to end up with a negative number, but that's what we want. And how did the x change? X went from 0 to 175. The final value of x is 175, and the initial value is 0. So that means 18 minus 25 is 7, negative 7. 175 divided by 0 is 175. Okay, so I have a fraction. When you're dealing with fraction, whenever you have a fraction, you should always be looking, can I simplify this? Is there a number I can divide top and bottom by that makes the number smaller? Yes, I can divide both top and bottom by 7. When I divide the top by 7, it becomes negative 1. The bottom by 7 becomes 25. So the slope is negative 1 over 25, or how many gallons you need is 1 over 25 gallons in 1 minute or 1 mile. And that is how much of fuel you're using. Okay, so this is the unit rate. So 1 over 25. It tells me that I need, this is how much of Y, how much of gallons that we're using when the distance is changing by 1. And notice that this is negative. Why is it negative? Because the fuel consumption, the fuel in the gas tank is actually going down. It's not going up. As you are traveling, the fuel gauge is going down. Okay, now that we figured out that you are going to use up 1 over 25 gallons of gas per mile, I'm going to ask another question. Okay, how much fuel is left in the tank when stopping for in and out, that's 220 miles away from home? Okay, so we figured out that you need 1 over 25, which is 0.04 gallons per mile. So that means we are traveling 220 miles. So how much do we need for 220 miles? You're going to need 0.04 multiplied by 220 miles. And then when I use the calculator, I get 8.8 gallons. Okay, so I've used up 8.8 gallons. So how much fuel is left? That's not 8.8 gallons there. Okay, you started off with 25 gallons, so that means you are going to subtract, whoops. So you're going to subtract from 25. So 25 minus 8.8. That's going to be 16.2 gallons remaining in your tank. Okay, then the last question was equation to model how much fuel is in the tank for the number of miles traveled. Okay, so we already know the slope as 0.04. But do we know the y-intercept? Well, we know the 2 points are this. When you actually look at this, look at the first point. The first point has the coordinate of 0, 25. When the first number is 0, this is actually the y-intercept. And the graph is crossing at 25. So this tells me that B is equal to 25. So the final equation is 0.04x